We were just live on our Facebook channel or whatever you call it.
Facebook
Page, group,
page?
Profile. Yes,
what
I
do
was
you
doing
call
it. I was doing it straight from my profile. So.
Oh, okay. I thought you had it like inside the group.
No, I was, well, my profile, I have bigger,
Yes,
a
that's
bigger
right.
audience.
Yep.
So I'm Rhonda Devlin Gilbert. If you want to go follow me on Facebook. And then you'll find out about all the other Goddess Garage stuff from there. Because, of course, I'm always posting, sharing, streaming, all that good stuff, right? So we're doing the Empress again. Those of you that maybe saw it last week realize that we were silent.
Your phones weren't screwed up, don't worry.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Because I had that thought process at 3 a.m. when I was like, oh, our podcast, that's what I can try and relax to. And then I'm like, wait, I can't hear us.
Yeah. So I was trying to microphone us and it just didn't work out. So I'll figure that out another day. I didn't feel like doing that today either. So, oh, someone's here. Yay. Who is that? It's someone that says hi. Can we see?
Tasha?
Tasha. Oh, hi, Tasha. Yay. Thank you for being here. So we're here to talk about the Empress. The Empress, yes. So the inner child, we've got out all our cards. Actually, let's start with the traditional.
The traditional one, yeah.
Rider-Waite. So there's what she looks like in Rider-Waite Smith, which is the traditional Empress. She's got the 12 stars as her crown. That represents her knowledge and her dominion over all of the cosmos, because it represents the 12 signs of the zodiac, right? So all those constellations. She's got the Venus shield right there. She's the epitome of goddess, of feminine energy, of divine feminine energy. She's got the wheat field below her, as she's often depicted with, gardens or produce or the harvest coming in, because she's all about abundance and about that, the way abundance comes in through unconditional love.
I like how you put that.
Yes. And of course she's lying on like all these silk blankets and pillows and stuff, as every woman should be lounging, especially at the end of the day.
We've worked hard.
Yes. So she's depicted in many different ways. What's one of the ways you've got there,
So
Kayla?
I have a Rider-Waite Smith clone, but I really like how she's depicted. So she's kind of on a tree stump, and she's got the Venus shield in the tree stump. She still has the crown, but she also, just different interpretation. So the wheat field's kind of in front of her instead of kind of beside. And it's really interesting. And also the fruit is on her skirt.
She's got strawberries,
Yep.
which is cool, because she's got pomegranates, which is the traditional female.
And we were just talking
Fruit.
about strawberries.
Yeah. We were just talking about strawberries, and strawberries have a lore in of themselves. There's a lot of native. I'm a Mohawk, so there's a lot of native stories around the strawberry and how it came to be and whatnot. And it's a symbol of love as well, right? And we were just talking about the strawberries that I'm going to bring into tarot readings.
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
Yes,
and
champagne,
amazing all at the
strawberries.
same time.
Always a good combination. Now, in the inner child, it's called the Inner Child cards. So it's a fairy tale based tarot deck, and this tarot deck could be a subject in of itself.
Oh, for sure.
This is Mother Goose. I love this deck, except for the fact that the cards are kind of flimsy. That's my only beef with them. The artwork is amazing. I love the tie-in with the fairy tales. Even their cards, like for instance, they've changed their court cards. So Child of Wands is the page, right? The Guardian of Wands are the knights. And the Guardians of Crystals, the Seeker of Crystals, sorry, the Seekers are the knights. The guide is the queen, and the guardian is the king.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so isn't that cool? So I love that Seeker, it gives you another perspective on knights. Because you always see knights as guys that are charging in on horses and stuff. And I love the way this deck has just kind of, they're seekers of knowledge. And
That makes me think. So there's a scene in Fantastic Beasts. I feel like it's the No, it might be the first one. I don't remember. But then there's like a woman on the steps, and she's like, are you a seeker for truth? And he's like, no, I'm kind of a chaser, really, which is a Quidditch joke. And I just, every time someone says seeker, that's what I think of now.
Well, you know, knights could be chasers too,
Yep,
right?
yep.
So,
They're
yes.
just always in movement.
Exactly, exactly. So in there, like this deck has two big meaty books. One that comes with the deck. There's the one that comes with the deck, and this
They
is
have two?
yeah, and this is a workbook in
Oh,
of itself,
cool.
right? So
Yeah.
it has two decks that you can get, and of course they're fairy tale related, and the Empress, I just had her. I must have mixed her in with the other cards. Anyways, she's Mother Goose, right? So Mother Goose, very ancient Mother Goose, actually is the goddess. She's the Empress, but she's depicted as the goddess because the theory is that the divine goddess part that was sort of gotten rid of when the patriarchy came in back in biblical times, she went hiding in fairy tales.
That's fair. Yeah.
So Mother Goose is the goddess, right? Because she's the ultimate one that, you know, made all the stories, is sort of the story as the story goes. So she's the queen of the world. She is the trinity of the holy feminine, sun, moon, and earth, the spiritual, emotional, and physical self, made Mother Crone. Mother Goose is often compared and is the same in a different form of Mother Earth. So this story originated in ancient Egypt, where she was Mother Hathor, incarnate of the Nile goose. That's where Mother Goose kind of came from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she laid the golden egg of the sun, is the Egyptian story. Another way of saying that she gave birth to Ra, the sun god. The Nile goose was also referred to as the creator of the world because she produced the whole universe in a primordial world egg. And even in the goddess oracle, if anyone knows the goddess oracle, because every time I bring that deck out, people are, oh, I have that deck, or I love that deck. The one,
Yes.
There's an egg one, and that's the primordial egg that the whole world was created from. Venus, the planetary ruler of both the traditional Empress and of Mother Goose. And of course, Venus is often depicted on the Empress card, as we showed earlier. Yeah, so, you know, she's very much, and she's also hidden within even the Catholic Church, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit, Holy Ghost, that's the divine feminine. That's the God in the female form. So there you go. And yeah, fairy tale lore. Birds often represent messengers and helpers of the spirit world, because we know birds always have meaning. Feathers have meaning. People are always excited when they see a crow or a raven or a cardinal as well.
Blue jays, cardinals.
Yeah, exactly. And goose symbolizes meditation or mediation, between heaven and earth. And that's why Mother Goose is often flying in the skies. Yes, there you go. The fairy tale end of things. How about you?
Well, I just like how the Empress is abundant but abundant in a creative standpoint. So
Yeah,
there's-
she's the ultimate creativity, right? Because she's often portrayed as pregnant, which is the ultimate act of creation, bringing life into this world, creating life. There you go.
And I love when people get that card because they're like, oh my God, I'm not having kids, or oh, I'm done having kids. And I'm like, no. It's not necessarily physically giving birth to children.
Yeah.
It's that creative venture. Your creative side is coming out. And I really like, where did it go? I had...
Yeah, because creating anything takes that same effort of, I mean, not to compare it to labor, but it is very, you know, like when you've done something, you go, oh, I'm done. And then it's like, let's go have something to eat or whatever.
I like what this says. The Empress is the gateway the Empress's gateway is your body. It is your eyes as they read and your hands as they hold this book. The Empress is how you express yourself, move, and inhabit the physical dimensional space of this world. So it's like how when you take an idea, a creative idea from that, like the kind of recesses of your mind, and put it out into the world, that you're physically, metaphorically giving birth.
Yeah,
to an
you're
idea.
bringing it into your reality, and I love that because like this is the Empress in her form in the Gilded Tarot, my working deck. And you can see she's holding the symbol of Venus, but she's surrounded by the circle as opposed to the crown of the zodiac. Again, having that inner working knowledge of the cosmos. I love everything you guys are typing, except that I can't see it.
What we'll have to do is we'll have to have a chunk of the podcast at the end for the previous, and we'll go through the previous comments and make comments at the end of the next episode.
And please ask your questions too. So yeah, we'll do next episode. We're going to be doing it same tonight, the Emperor as well, because he follows up the Venus. But notice that the Empress comes first. And remember, I've said the goddess came first and then she created God. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, what? But
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And if you take the rigidity out of things, you can see where it makes sense.
Yeah. And I love that she's the number 3. Because number 1 is the idea, the sprouting of the idea. Because going back to your point, number 2 is the decision of let's follow this thread, this red thread of knowledge, and let's bring it into this world. Let's give birth to this idea. There you go, right?
Sorry, the Darkwoods Tarot deck, A, she's pregnant, but also B, she's in a dark red robe.
Yeah, because red, as I've mentioned a few times before, and of course I forget when I mention it, whether it's in actual live class or whether I'm here on YouTube, but red in the occult world is the sign of knowledge, of having knowledge. It's like a black belt in karate. She's wearing a red belt, and in your, what tarot was this?
This is the Darkwoods Tarot by Sasha Graham.
Darkwoods Tarot. She's wearing a red robe, red dress of knowledge. So she's got it everywhere.
Yes. Abigail Larson is the artist, and she's fantastic.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah, very, very nice. So I love this book. It's Wild Witches Don't Get the Blues. It's out of print.
I was like, sounds like I want to read that book.
Yeah, it costs you about $170 to get it now. if you want it. I was very lucky and I was gifted it by a mentor of mine. When you start working with crones, you find they give you things because crones start to let go of stuff we don't need as much. I'm starting to enter that stage, and it's like, yeah, I don't need this anymore. I don't need it because, like, I'll meet a young tarot reader and they've got all this stuff with them, and it's like, yeah, I just need the deck,
Well, and that's the funny thing too, because depending on what we're doing, the only reason why I have so many decks on us is because we talk about the different decks and how the cards are represented with different artists. If I'm just doing tarot readings, I maybe have like 3 decks on me max, and that's usually because I will let the energy of the client kind of go, which direction am I leaning towards which deck, because they kind of talk differently depending on what I'm using them for. But I can just use my one working deck and be completely happy.
Yeah. And I realized tonight when I was going through some of my decks to pick out some different styles, I'm like, man, I've either sold or given away a lot of my tarot decks. It's like, I've stuck with some of the basics, ones I love, because, they kind of become your babies after a while. But in this one, she's called the Great Corn Mother. This one's very feminist. It was written, I think, in the 70s when they were burning their bras and feminism.
Sounds like a fun time.
It was the third wave of feminism, by the way. A lot of people think it was the first. It's actually the third wave of feminism. But
so then what wave are we in now?
I guess we must be in the 4th. I don't know. 4th wave of,
I can't keep up.
Things are becoming more fluid and I always jokingly say, why did we want equality when we were already superior? But
I feel like that.
it's like, yeah. Anyways, she's called the Great Corn Mother. She's compared to Demeter and Gaia. She's the nurturer. She's called the Mother Soul card. She's about sensuality. And that's the other thing about being, the mother and whatnot. It's embracing your sensuality and being comfortable with it. Being comfortable with being sexy and indulging in that sensuality. Like, part of what came to me with the Champagne and Strawberries tarot reading is learning to indulge in your own sensualness and allowing that, that sort of richness to come into your life. And I don't mean rich money. I mean just have some champagne or indulge in whatever guilty pleasure you have and be okay with it. Because especially as women, I find we often deny ourselves these things. We're everybody else needs to be served first and then we'll take care of us. And it's like, really, if we take care of us, and not in that selfish kind of way, but we need care too. And sometimes we're the only ones that will care for us. Like, I have a girlfriend of mine that says, buy your own damn flowers. She buys herself flowers. I think it's awesome. It's great, It's like, you romance yourself once in a while, right? And so it's about sensuality. She's about abundance, fertility, growth, because, growth is bringing forth these ideas, the pregnancy of whatever idea, or if you are actually pregnant too, the growth, because if you've been pregnant, you have to adjust because you start bumping into weird shit because you're like, oh yeah, I have this belly, bang, as you clear a table. And that's okay. That's okay. But really, what the Empress teaches us is unconditional love. Because we're going to talk about that in the Emperor a little bit.
Which I find really interesting, that as much as we're born with a lot of love, well, we have to relearn that.
Yeah,
as
and
we
we're
grow up.
taught out of love. We're taught to, a lot of our learned behaviors are contrary to love. Love with conditions or reprimands or, going too far, abuse, of course, or, hatred or bigotry. That's all taught behavior. Because, we don't naturally know that. But, yeah, it's interesting. And the thing I brought up last week when we were so rudely interrupted was, the thing about the Empress. So this is the Fool's Pilgrimage. Now this is following a bit of that Kabbalah life tree of life thing, so it doesn't go in order. So I kind of have to find her. But on the initial pathway, it has to do with generation, the birth of things, beings and ideas. Well, on the pathway of return, it has to do with regeneration, the birth of divinity out of the womb of humanity, and it was the doorway of the double birth of the soul.
Yes, I remember we had a really profound thought about that last week. And do you think I can think about what it was?
Well, to me, it really speaks to the birth, but it's also the death, right? And they're two sides of the same coin.
Yes, because there's duality there.
There's a duality, and with death comes birth, right? And it's a a cycle that repeats, like every other cycle, like the seasons, the months of the year, the hours of the day. When we die, we live another life. And whatever way you think that is, whether it's through regeneration or like reincarnation, or whether it's we go to heaven and we live another life there, or whatever, who knows for sure, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I used to question my father and drive him nuts all the time on that question, because I'd say, so we get about 70 years, give or take, to prove ourselves for all of eternity. I was raised Irish Roman Catholic, so we were in the heaven, hell, fire, brimstone, or nothing but happiness and
That
singing
seems
with the
very
angels.
I understand the construct, but that's very polar opposites.
I thought it was a lot. So if
Yeah.
I screw up to the point where I'm going to hell, I'm going there forever based on my 70 years, if I get that much. And like I said, it was give or take.
Because if you think about eternity, one lifetime is like a pinprick or a
yeah,
dot.
in the greater scale of things,
Yeah.
as far as the universe is concerned,
So that
70
doesn't
years
make
is a
any
drop.
sense that you would be judged, quote unquote, on the 70 years or the blip of time in the eternity, and then that determines where you. Oh wow.
And you know what's really crazy is I was asking that question when I was 7 years old, because my questions started coming around First Communion, First Confession.
Yeah.
Because you had to do catechism classes at that point.
I wouldn't have survived catechism class. I probably would have been kicked out.
I was full of questions. Questions.
The questions are good. I find it really interesting because I did the whole Christian side of things for 4 or 5 years, and it wasn't forced upon me. I grew up in a very religious neutral household, and that was amazing of my parents, because then I could kind of really formulate my own thoughts. And then dove into Christianity when I could form those own thoughts, like, I don't know, high school. And then got to college and still started questioning. And from the very beginning, I questioned it. But I was like, okay, this makes sense. And then, like, as you get older, you look at things differently. And you're like, hey, this doesn't make sense anymore.
Right.
Because you're not
right.
willing to overlook certain things. And then it just kind of bugs you. And then you're like, no, this doesn't
Yeah,
fit.
I loved exploring religion and
religion,
spirituality right from the beginning. I drove my dad nuts because I'd always want to go to church, to the other churches with my friends, and just to see what they
The
did.
best thing to do is I call it church shopping.
Yeah, right. And like it was really funny because I was kind of jealous of a couple of my friends because as a Catholic, kids go to mass with the adults and we're there, learning the scriptures and whatnot. But my friends got to go to Sunday school.
Yep.
And I was like, Sunday school, and you got stickers and you got coloring things.
Yeah, they gear the same lesson that parents are learning.
Yeah.
But
with a lot more color.
with a lot more color and,
some songs.
coloring sheets, stickers, all the fun stuff kids
Yeah,
love.
exactly. And like they should not take that away from you as an adult.
No, they really shouldn't.
Because it's just as fun as an adult.
What's really funny is watching people. So, like, as I said, I started kind of going when I was in high school-ish. And so there would be people that would, like, zone out. Like, you could tell they were physically there, but they were not mentally taking in the sermon. And then you have the people that are diligently taking notes. And then the thing about coloring brought me back up because there would be people that would take the program and make their own notes / their own drawings.
And
like,
doodles and
yeah,
stuff.
doodles. And it was a way to help, like, process the information, I think, for a lot of people.
Right.
But
right.
I just, like, why are we taking away coloring from adults?
Yeah, right? I mean, there's a reason why adult coloring books have been such a big hit, right? So, yeah, exactly. So back to the Empress.
We got a little sidetracked. This is why we're having another podcast.
Yes, and we do that, right? So this is actually from the Light Seers Tarot. So this is the Empress here. Now she's pregnant with the world. So again, going back to that Mother Goose sort of element of the primordial egg and the fact that the goddess gave birth to the earth and then balanced herself out with the god who is the emperor essentially in tarot. So we're going to talk about him next in our next podcast, which will be coming up shortly after this. But yeah, it's weird because like when I first saw this, like she almost looks like she needs a good waxing because she's got some hair, it looks like, on her boobs.
Is it her?
But,
her boob? Okay, so I was
but they're
looking at-
trees. They're trees.
Oh, they are trees.
But they look like hair, don't they?
Oh my goodness. So I was looking at the shading on her elbows, and I was like, are you mistaking those for boobs?
No. I know a boob when I see
I know
one.
you know a boob when you see one. Jesus. But I just think it was really funny because the way they're almost positioned, like, right. But
Did you see my post about my sugar?
Yes, I love it. I love that someone's like, I'm stealing this.
It's like, yeah, the problems with eating a sugar twist is it gets down here and then you've got sweet boobs at the end. But yeah, I like this deck too. I used this one summer. And she's got her 12 stars are around the moon, it looks like.
Yes, it does.
And so therefore there's the knowledge. There's not a lot of red except right in this corner around her name. Mm-hmm. That's the only sort of red part.
I find it really interesting. So the Empress, I wish I could reach for this deck more. I love the people who created it. They're fantastic. Toronto creator, Toronto-ish area. Mm-hmm. And it's I have the lacy on my brain.
Right.
The chakra, no. I'm gonna blank. All right, I will put
It's a chakra-based one.
It is
though,
a
'cause
chakra-based.
It's got
so
chakras on the back.
That's the back of it has like the world tree and the chakras, and it's like anyway. I will put it in the comments. I'm just blanking right now. Mm-hmm. But I found it really interesting because a lot of the hallmarks of the Empress is missing.
Okay.
In this one, so you have...
yeah.
Well, you've got the pomegranates there, and she's kind of on the chair. But, like, you can't tell if she's pregnant. You can't tell... There's not a lot of red.
The pomegranates kind of look like boobs at first.
Yeah, that's true. And they're, like, right underneath her
Right
boobs.
on boob level.
Yeah, they are on boob level. And I find this deck is really dark depending on, like
Yeah.
in lighting, not necessarily in
Yeah, not
substance.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's phenomenal. And so each of the majors have 2 chakras. So this one is the throat chakra and the third eye chakra.
Oh,
So it really kind of speaks to that.
yeah, definitely the Empress, right?
Yeah.
Like, because a lot of women, I find when I've done chakra balancings or cleansings and stuff like that, it's the throat chakra that often affects them because they have to find their voice because sometimes we're suppressed and
Well, and it's interesting too. So when I do, I was gonna say readings, more Reiki for people, depending on, and I haven't done this with haven't had a good pool of male specimens who decided to come see me for a Reiki session, but a lot of women, I spend a lot of time like neck and above because it's their throat, their third eye, and their crown chakra that are
right.
kind of unbalanced.
In those higher
Yeah.
chakras. Yeah. And yeah, learning how to balance and work with them.
Interchangeably is
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah, because you'll find that when these get blocked up here, oh, I have abdominal issues, or I have like, some kind of female problem, as they call it, or stomach issues. It's like, yeah, that because they're all tied together, and if one gets blocked, the other ones kind of start to go out of whack too.
And I find it really, I don't know, I've been stretching my intuition, so I don't get people to tell me what's wrong beforehand. And then I kind of give my feedback, and then sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. And it all depends on what they're there for.
Okay, cool. Well, this is an interesting one. This is the Muse Tarot.
I found that deck so hard to
I found it very hard
connect
to
with.
connect with. The book itself is exceptionally deep.
Oh, she's fantastic. Chris,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
going to butcher her
Chris
name.
Ann.
Chris Ann.
Yeah.
She's fantastic. I have another one of her
The
decks
book
that I love.
is, but the thing I found about it is I'm never going to remember all of that for tarot. So I love the coloring of this deck. This is the Empress in her deck. It's very collagey kind of looking, which is, I love that style.
It throws me off.
I love the style, but yeah, because I feel like, there's so much more I could tell you if I could just read the book while I'm doing the tarot reading, that would be amazing. So I find this deck is actually a really good one to meditate with.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so if you are one of these people that like to draw a card a day, draw a card from this deck, read what she has to say, and then reflect or journal on it. And it's an awesome deck for that. And you can see like she opens her cloak and all the cosmos pours out of her in this particular deck. She's got beautiful pink hair. I used to have pink hair back in the day too. The red is sort of inside, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I mean, she, not all women are very good at observing sometimes and not always revealing all our cards, no pun intended. And we hold back sometimes on purpose.
Well, I find it's really interesting. So when I work in a predominantly women-centered field, and the different types of women that I meet, and like all of this is really good because it takes a whole village to teach children, and so there are days that I'm in my own zone and I know what kids need what, and I'm the like help in the classroom. I'm not running the show, so I just kind of move and do my thing. And then there are other days where when they have a specific like goal in mind, they will communicate greatly and like let you in and be like, hey, I need you to be here at this point. And I'm like, yep, roger that. And so I find it really interesting that there's very interestingly different types of people that can still effectively communicate well and get their message across, and somehow we wrangle all the kids like roaming cats, and the day we survive the day. And it's I find it, like, as somebody who does sit back and not literally sit but like observe first then kind of go in, it's fascinating.
Yeah. And the Empress is a good teacher of learning that communication and learning how to communicate what your message is out there. So
creative.
that's one aspect of, there's so many aspects to the Empress. Like when she comes up in a tarot reading, for instance, what do you usually think when she first comes up?
I
put you on
jump
the spot?
to creative endeavors.
Yeah.
So, like, because you know how people are like, oh no, I'm getting more children. No, it's what kind of wand thing, because the wands are your passion and your fire, what sets your soul on fire. But when I see the Empress, I have a tendency to ask that question as well, because that just tells me that you have something burning that you want to create.
Especially if she is surrounded by wands, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a great question to ask. The other thing I tend lately to be asking when she shows up is, what aren't you giving yourself?
Oh, yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Because you eventually, because I've done a couple of readings with you, so you have, like, depending on how they show up, I've heard you say that.
Yeah.
What aren't you giving yourself? So, like, as you said before or previously, we have a tendency to hold back on ourselves. So what's that one thing that you're holding back on and that you're giving?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Can you read that?
Nope.
Okay.
I don't have enough context.
That's what we need Sarah back here for.
Yeah. But we will go through the comments, and at the end of next week's episode, we will try and offer you some of our thoughts on those comments.
Yes, we'll make note of the comments, and we will answer them in the next podcast for sure. Any other cards you want to show off there?
No, we already talked about,
Okay. So pay attention when the Empress shows up, because she's about abundance coming into your life. She's about, perhaps there's a creative endeavor that you haven't been looking at, or that you've been doubting yourself on, or that you put on the back burner. She could also be, you know, what aren't you giving yourself? Because she is about that unconditional love. And you know, like charity starts at home, love starts with ourselves, right? So we've got to remember that, because we often will play the martyr card and think that's a form of love, as opposed to, you know, like we put everybody else, I do everything for everybody. And it's like, that's not love. That's not true love. That's conditional love. Because now you get to bitch about how you give everything to everybody except yourself. So that's your condition, is that you get to bitch, right? So learning to love yourself and being truly, madly, deeply in love with yourself, and learning how to romance yourself teaches other people how to treat you, first of all, and teaches other people how they too can be loved and treated. And that helps spread the love around the world.
And now we just need to spread it further.
Yes, there you go.
I love it.
All right, thank you so much for being here. We're going to do a back-to-back tonight, so we're going to go off and come back on, and then look for us next week. You can follow us on Facebook as well, Goddess Garage. Look up, and I'll come up in my various groups and profiles. We're also on Instagram under Goddess Garage, if you're an Instagram person. I am on TikTok. I will admit I neglect TikTok.
I'm working on that for you.
So there you go. Find us at wherever you can. We're on here weekly, and we're on Facebook for sure weekly. I know that's where the old people are, but there you go. All right. See you later.
Have a great one, guys.
All right. How do I stop this again? Oh, yeah, the X.
Top.
It's different from Facebook.